Hey everyone, Fifth Bridge Sports here. We hope you're having a great week. We hope you're winning your matchup. We're going to go through some players to add. We're going to break the schedule down, and then we're also going to talk about the recent trade that went down between the Clippers and the Blazers. So let's get started.
All right, so first slide, we're going to go back to our fantasy meme of the week that we always got here.
Oh,
Yeah, I think we've been there. You spend a lot of time talking someone into a nice trade, then the league just vetoes it. It's mixed feelings about those ones, but comment down below if you've been there.
yeah, shout out everyone that plays in my league. You guys are fantastic. Just good stuff. Quality people.
Alex isn't allowed to get trades through, But yeah, we'll move on to games played. So a little bit less games played than we'd normally see. Only a few teams are playing 4 games this week. Bucks and the Rockets are the teams playing 2 games this week. So unfortunately, if you have players on those teams, that's tough. Avoid picking players up on those teams too. But yeah, total games played by day. Spread out here Sunday. There's only 2 games off to close this fantasy week. You got the Hawks, Celtics, and Timberwolves, Pacers. So to finish the week, maybe considering picking up players on those teams, worthwhile. But best team for fantasy this week is going to be the Minnesota Timberwolves. They do play 4 games, and they do play on Sunday to finish off your week. Could give you that extra push you need to win. Worst teams for fantasy, like we mentioned. Just stay away from the Rockets and Bucks boys there. Like if you have Giannis, it's probably time to say goodbye.
Yeah, even though you can't actually drop Giannis in most leagues, just throw him on the bench. You don't need him playing this week.
Yeah, see if you can, put him on an IR spot, like make it happen somehow. But yeah, trade alert. So first trade before the trade deadline, which is on February 10th and is happening this week. We'll maybe make another video to go over some of the trades that happen and the implications they have for fantasy basketball. But the first trade we already got is pretty interesting. So it's on the screen here. So you have Bledsoe, Winslow, Keon Johnson, and a second-round pick for Powell and Covington. I think it's pretty obvious the Clippers are getting the upper side of this trade in terms of actually winning it from the basketball side because they're getting Norman Powell. But for fantasy, I don't know. What do you think, Alex? Do you think any of these players are going to start trending up on their new team?
I think potentially Bledsoe, if they choose to play him. I think he could see, because he was coming off the, I think he'll still be coming off the bench, but I think he could see some more shots, especially if some other pieces get moved from the Blazers. And on the Clippers, I have no idea. I have no idea. I think Powell maybe benefits the most from this trade, but
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you have to think Powell's like the start, finds his way into the starting lineup, and maybe he's the first option on offense on that team right now. Hard to say, but yeah, I'd say if anyone, I would be most confident in where Powell's going for the rest of the season.
yeah, I mean Tyler's a good coach, but he's been running like three-man center rotations recently, so
That's just brilliance.
yeah, that's similar to Washington, with their three-man center rotations. I have no idea how the minutes are going to be distributed between all their players.
Yeah, I know it's tough to have players on those three position rotations.
We'll see.
Yeah.
All right. So now we'll go through just some players to add. Again, we'll go through standard league players first, and given the trade deadline coming up, I guess maybe watch the number of ads that you're putting through. Like if you have 4, maybe save a couple, right? Save at least one in case who knows, maybe John Wall gets thrown on a team. Not too likely, I think, but maybe he does. I don't know what the roster percentage is for Ben Simmons, but I feel like he's probably available in some leagues if the trade for him and Harden goes down. That's way better than anyone that we're gonna mention here, right?
For sure.
But for now, we got Patty Mills, and the reason he's on here is aside from the fact that he does put up pretty consistent stats is they've got a couple home games that Kyrie won't be playing in, so he gets that little boost of value, and he's got 4 games coming up, which is also pretty nice. The next person on here, Herbert Jones. He's just been he could be on here every single week. He's just I think this might be a candidate for just like surprise fantasy player of the year. Like came out of nowhere. Like no one, I don't even think no one drafted him. We know for a fact no one drafted him because we covered him at 0% rostered. Okay,
That's
so
facts.
yeah,
Yeah, if you're an early Fifth Bridge Sports subscriber, you could have picked up Herbert Jones and rode him to the top of your league.
what could have been right, but he's a he's a defensive monster. He's playing on the Pelicans right now, and short of like I guess Zion coming back, his role, his minutes, it's locked in. There's no reason this won't continue for the rest of the fantasy season here. Next person on our list is Davion Mitchell. He's I guess like he's got that real strong defense. He's been getting a lot of extra minutes, as you can kind of see like in the stats here. His minutes have been just like recently he played close to 38 minutes, and that's because De'Aaron Fox is out. And with the way things are going, it wouldn't surprise me if De'Aaron Fox is out until the All Star break here. I could see him making his return after. So
Yeah,
Davion Mitchell's got some value till then.
I didn't see that De'Aaron Fox did show up in some trade talk headlines too. So
Oh,
on the offense, De'Aaron Fox does get moved. I'd be surprised if a trade did happen for De'Aaron Fox, but if it does, Davion Mitchell, that value for the rest of the season is looking pretty good.
where are those potential trades too?
There were some rumors with Philadelphia for Ben Simmons. I think those
Oh,
talks have kind of quieted down, but I mean,
okay,
yeah. Realistically, which team wouldn't be interested in trading for De'Aaron Fox?
fair
They're
point.
just kind of Sacramento's willing to part ways with him.
Yeah, so if anything like that does happen, this guy benefits for sure.
Mm-hmm.
All right, next person on our list, Larry Nance. He'll be coming back probably sometime soon, like probably sometime this week, I would guess. It's been reported that he's real close, and with the current like situation, I guess, in Portland, where Zeller's out, Covington just got moved. I could see Larry Nance getting like a few extra minutes. He's a pretty solid source of just about everything. I guess he specializes in steals. I'd say that's his one standout category, but he'll definitely give you like I'd say standard league value going forward for the rest of the season here.
Agreed. Next, we got Patrick Beverly. He's only
Yeah.
31% rostered. I think if you look at a player who's only 31% rostered but averaging 27 fantasy points per game, it's kind of a steal, honestly. Like he's
Yeah.
getting near that 30 points per game. Everyone knows who he is. I think he's a quality veteran, worth having on fantasy teams depending how deep your league is. Mostly,
there's a video of Patrick Beverly coming off the bench and blocking a shot. And I think
oh
if enough people saw that video, he would be rostered in more leagues. But
oh exactly. Like he's willing to come off the bench to try to get a block to boost your fantasy values. Like I don't even know what to say. That's the inspiration we need. But yeah, next player. I feel bad saying it without our boy Batu here, but I'll do my best. Alperen Sengun, 30% rostered, average fantasy points, 21. His most recent game was one of the best games he's had recently in the season. He had 18 points, filled up the defensive stat sheet with 3 blocks and a steal. As we're getting deeper into the season, I'm hoping we see more minutes from him as the Rockets kind of realize that their team isn't going to be going into playoffs, and maybe it's time to just feed minutes to your young players, develop them. Hopefully that happens for Sengun as the season goes on, and we see more fantasy games in the range above 30 points. I think he's worth picking up if that's the case. Next, we have Reggie Bullock. We have had some injuries on the Mavericks, such as Tim Hardaway missing time. Reggie Bullock stepped in, and he's, if you look at those recent games there, 3 of the last 5 have been above 20 points. He's been filling up the sheet, playing really well. Someone I'd be looking at adding if you want a short-term boost to your fantasy team. Javonte Green, our next player here.
let's go.
He's one of our bigger recommendations for this week. If you look at what he's been doing with Chicago, they've been feeding a lot of injuries to that team recently, been having to manage it and see how their team's able to do. Javonte Green, whenever he steps into the rotation, seems to really step up and give good things. Defense is kind of one of the main things that jumps out to me here. If you're looking at those steal and block columns, he's given you at least one steal and at least one block in every of the last 5 games. That's pretty crazy value right there in most leagues. So I definitely would be looking to pick him up if you can. So we have Terry Taylor next here. So Alex was telling me a little bit about the Indiana Pacers situation with their centers. So I guess, Sabonis has gone down. Goga Badotsi has gone down. Who else are we missing in the Pacers?
Isaiah Jackson played like 20 seconds in a game. He was out. That was tough for the 20,000 people that picked him up.
Yeah. I'm sorry if you joined the Isaiah Jackson train a little early on that one, but
I'd say hold. If you have him, hold this week. Like you never know. Could be worth it.
Yeah, if he comes back and some of those other guys are injured, could be worth having. But looking at these numbers Terry Taylor's put up recently, pretty huge games. Unfortunately, I think he's kind of all the Pacers have to stick in at that position. So as long as those injuries are there, he's probably worth having. Jay Crowder, next name on the list here. He's just a veteran player, 21% rostered. He'll be pretty consistent for what he's given you. I will say, if you look at that top game there, that is a game that's currently happening at the time we're recording this. So, don't be like, oh, why do you only play 5 minutes on February 5th? So don't overthink that stat line there. But he's a veteran player. He'll get you over 20 fantasy points most games. I think that's worth having in a lot of leagues. Next, Jackson Hayes. He's been a monster recently. If you look at this most recent game here, he played against Denver. He put up 22 points, a block, a steal, 11 rebounds. Didn't miss a shot from the field. Pretty impressive stuff there. Recently, New Orleans has been doing an experiment with Jackson Hayes playing the power forward spot and starting him next to Jonas Valanciunas. That's been pretty interesting, and it seems to be working pretty well for the team and their success, and especially Jackson Hayes' fantasy value. I think this experiment, especially with that most recent game, will, result in Jackson Hayes playing some more minutes. So we'll see how that goes. He's definitely a player worth following.
For sure. I think Herb Jones went off there too, right? 18 points in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, Herb Jones abused the Nuggets in the fourth quarter. I'm sorry if you're a Nuggets fan and got destroyed by Herbert.
He's not sorry, yo. Pelicans are his team. He does not care about Nuggets fans in that game.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, thanks for giving us an easy win, Nuggets fans.
Gosh. All right, shout out everyone who cheers for the Nuggets. Wasn't your day, but anyways, moving on. We got Gary Payton here. He's known mostly for his defense. He'll give you pretty solid defensive stats. Potentially going forward, I could see some players resting. Like in this upcoming week, I could see Clay, Steph maybe wanting to ease their minutes back a little bit. And if you look at his, I guess, like defensive stats column, he had a game with 5 steals this week. That is, I don't even know what to say about that. That's all you need to know. He does things like that. And he'll put up some rebounds, some points. What was that?
Herb Jones numbers.
Herb Jones numbers. Oh, man. Exactly. We've got Zaire Williams, who Aiden tricked me into believing was, who was it?
Don't worry about it.
I was tricked. That's all that matters. But he's a player that he's been just getting an increased amount of minutes. Some of that was due to injuries, but it seems like it's just continuing forward now that those players are back. So it looks like maybe they're willing to invest some minutes in him and just let him play out games. Like just looking at it, looking at his stats, just the number of shots that he's getting up per game is kind of stands out to me as someone like, especially someone who's rostered in 4% of leagues, who's getting up like 8 shot attempts per game, 11, 10, like I think that's definitely worth taking a chance on.
I agree, yeah. And he was the 10th pick in a recent draft. So when you're a team and you pick a player that high, normally you want to, at least give them a chance to succeed. So I think because of, all of those factors, he's a good ad.
For sure. The last name that we're going to mention is Zach Collins, who recently came back after, I think, like 2 or 3 years out of the league. And, he's currently playing on the Spurs. He came back, he played 13 minutes, and he did quite a bit in those 13 minutes. It was an eventful 13 minutes for him. So he's someone that I'll personally be watching to see if he gets the minutes, how he looks when the other centers come back, because I'm not certain, but I think Pirtle might have been out, or one of their centers. So let's see how they look when they're all together. But if he gets like between 15 and 20 minutes per night, and he's putting up maybe a fantasy point per minute, if he's that type of guy, which he could be, it's definitely worth a look in really deep leagues.
For sure. But yeah, that's the end of our ads for this week, guys. Thanks for watching our video. If you liked it, comment down below anyone else you're going to be adding this week. And yeah.
Yeah, thanks for watching. If we roasted your team,
take it personally.